we need a theme song.
We'll work on that. What royalty-free music can I start playing on my phone like in 5 minutes?
Oh, certainly not. I was gonna say maybe we could do one of the fan made theme like intros for this. Except I'm pretty sure they use things like the Friends theme. This would have been fine if we were back in the blip days.
Right, yeah, exactly. Just play whatever, it's fine.
Oh, sure, it's fine. What's the theme to the Cinema Snob? Oh, I don't know. Theme to Greatest American Hero? It's fine. It's all good.
No one's going to remember that show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not going to come back at all. What's that? Isn't that song from 40-Year-Old Virgin? Okay, so, as you can see, we are trying out some different things for this show. Not saying, obviously it might even be built upon from here as well. There's one thing I would like to do, too, as far as, maybe even incorporating clips and things like that in future episodes. But one thing right off the bat for people who are watching this, once it goes up into the archives, if you just simply want to skip, we are talking about 5 movies in this, and if you want to just skip to a certain movie, those links are in the description. So if you want to skip past this intro, or we got to get some house cleaning out of the way, then go for it. The links to the reviews will be there in the description for you to just go ahead and skip forward. So we do have 5 movies to talk about. We have Hellboy. We have seeing 5 movies. I actually have to remind myself which ones that I saw. So we have Hellboy. We have the body swap movie Little, which is the second body swap movie in the span of like 7 days. We're going back to 1987 again. There's a lot of these movies coming out now. So we have that. Also, the new Laika animated movie Missing Link, and the new YA movie After, and one that you probably haven't heard of that's called The Haunting of Sharon Tate. We'll have those later on, and there's a couple of these that I can't wait to get to. There's a lot of people online getting angry and talking smack and talking bad things about a certain movie that's out there and is probably trending right now. But there's a couple that they should be talking about more. And that'll be coming up. That'll be coming up throughout the show. And one thing that we want to do is, there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to kind of switch up formatting a little bit on this show. One of them I'll go ahead and talk about right now, which is to make it slightly more interactive, in the sense that in between talking about the movies, because we got 5 on here, and in between the 5, one thing that we can do is we got a bigger chance right now to look at whenever we get a super chat comment or a super chat question, and we would get those when we would be doing it in the car. Sometimes we could see them, and then sometimes the link to click on them would go away and we couldn't see it. So it was kind of a crapshoot. So it would all scroll by really, really, really fast in the car. So this way we can actually kind of interact a little bit more, at least in terms of the super chat. And I was looking for at least just kind of a standard picture to put up right now. Right, if you wanted to super chat, you could just ask me. Like, you don't have to pay.
I'm trying to donate to the channel.
Oh, right.
Also, a new better part of this format is we can talk about the show sometimes without freezing our nuts off.
Oh, well, there's that. Or getting heat stroke in the summertime.
Right. Yeah, so,
sitting there sweating our asses off as if we're really nervous how this review is going to go over. I like the picture that I have up on here right now. Because I was looking, I was like, well, what do I put in the background here for when we're introing this? I'm like, I don't know. I'll find a picture of the movie theater. I found a few, but they were in the daytime. So I'm like, a night one would probably look a little bit better. And so I found this. I don't know how old this picture is. First of all, it's hilarious. There's snow on the ground right there. And that theater hasn't looked like that since like Karasotis owned it. So
Which was
way
10 years
this
ago?
has got to be like 10 plus years old. Like now it's got like a big AMC
Right.
sign on it. There's a lot of reasons why I already like this format better. One of which is we could go to the more comfortable theater in town with the reclining seats. We didn't have to worry about immediately going to the car afterwards. And so, well, plus we could just go see them on our own time.
Right,
like,
yeah.
We just wanted to go see these on our own time. You saw one movie today. I saw 3 last night and one other one today. And then one like mid last week. But in between some of the showing, I could just chill at like the movie theater bar for like 20 minutes and just like get a drink. And it's nice being able to like actually ponder certain movies.
It is true. There were times that I'd come right out of a movie and I'd have a very strong opinion about it. But then as I thought more about the movie, certain things would click a little bit more. I'd be like, maybe I was a little hard on that, or maybe I didn't exactly see that, or maybe that's what getting a chance to kind of digest it a little bit has been nice, So just from getting the initial response is certainly fine, but I like as a reviewer, getting to articulate what I want to say
a little bit better.
Yeah.
I agree, and like midnight screenings was always one of, if not like my favorite shows to do, because it's fun getting out to the movies and then talking about them afterwards. But it was a show that I've been trying to rack my brain with for a while, in how to like kind of adapt it to how we are now versus when we started that show. It made sense for it being like it was because there was a whole group of us. We were a lot younger.
Mm-hmm.
We were a lot younger back then, and there was a big group of us where they were also at midnight, hence the title of it, hence the title of the series, Midnight Screenings. They were always at midnight, so it would be different groups of us going to different movies. We meet afterwards at the car, and then we're talking about maybe this good movie that they saw and then this bad one that they saw, or vice versa. And then the more years that it went on, the older we got, that it's harder to coordinate a lot with a lot of people because our lives are different now. We're much older and everything. It seemed to kind of go beyond where we were when it started out. I mean, look at the title of the thing. The title of this show doesn't even make sense now.
No, not anymore.
It's called Midnight Screenings, but it's 7 p.m.
Right.
And that's another thing, too. We want to make this like a weekly Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central series.
Absolutely. That way it's kind of a one-stop shop for a review of all the movies or as many movies as we could get to.
Yeah.
So you can go and find one place. Instead of having multiple notifications show up at a bunch of different times, you can see one notification, and then, as we said, if you're really only interested in one or a couple of the movies, we're giving you places where you can go to find them specifically in the video. So. And
also, I think YouTube was also secretly telling me to kind of switch things up a little bit because, like, there was a lot of switches with the algorithm and everything with YouTube. By and large, it didn't really hit us that much on some shows. A little bit here and there, but nothing that we couldn't really work around on some other shows. But Midnight Screenings was like the one series that it kind of did.
Yeah.
Now, that means that archived episodes of this show do really well.
Right.
Of Midnight Screenings. They do. Archived episodes of it do actually incredibly well. Newer ones, it's a little hard to get the newer ones out there a little bit. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this and a few other things is just a sign to kind of try something a little bit different for this particular show.
Innovate. Always innovating. So
I'm not really worried about Brad Tries. It's an easy show to do and doesn't cost anything.
Right.
I'm not really...
$1 million new set for Brad Tries.
Yeah, that show. Of all things, the filler show.
Right.
That's like a 3-minute long show that I do a day after doing the Cinema Snob. Speaking of which, that's something else I want to promote here too. We do have a couple of new Snob episodes to check out. That Diary of a Mad Black Woman episode is back, and when it came back, since it wasn't taken down from YouTube, it was just privatized so it could go through the whole copyright appeal. Then that went through and I put it back. but no one got notified about it being back. So I need to put like
We're notifying you now.
Yeah, and I need to put like a little ad board or something at the
yeah.
beginning of the next Snob episode. So the Diary of a Mad Black Woman is back. Check out the 500th episode too, the Choose Your Own Gutenberg episode I did last week.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's an interactive Choose Your Own Adventure Cinema Snob review that's all about Steve Gutenberg movies like Short Circuit, the Police Academy movies, The Day After, and to like underrated ones too, like The Bedroom Window and movies like that. So that was a lot of fun to do. Honestly.
Yeah, it's really fun to do and to redo, and also the fans that have made like the map,
I really enjoyed that.
That's so great.
There's fans that made little maps to go along with the paths that you take on it, and there are. I noticed this too when I put it up. For some people, the end title links weren't showing up at the end of it because it's a choose your own adventure thing. So and links pop up. If those don't work for you, I ended up putting links in the description of those videos that'll take you to whatever path you want to go on. It's funny looking to see what paths are more popular than other ones.
You can see the view.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we can go ahead and jump into Hellboy, which means, oh, check this out. This is gonna be awesome and innovative for this show. Wait, hang on. Just boop. Whoa, dude. Whoa.
That's too much tech, man.
I like when I put up on Twitter and YouTube as well. I gotta try not to hit this thing. It's a rickety table. Sorry if it shakes a little bit. So I put down like, yeah, we're doing some changes to this show, and a bunch of people were just guessing we were getting a new car.
Yeah.
We don't even use the same car for all of them anyway.
I know, yeah, we're bouncing around from.
Yeah. Now this is the one that you saw today at 1 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. I saw it last night at 7:00. This is the one. This is the update on Hellboy. I guess you would call it. Yeah, it's a reboot. It's sure, like
because it does go back and give like the origin of where he came from and stuff. So you could say this is a reboot that you could see without having seen any of the other movies or knowing anything about it. So it's a reboot.
Yes and no. Like it's one of those reboots that's like the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk, where it's like it's a reboot, but it also is kind of dependent that you've seen the other one.
It's assuming you've seen the other ones. I would say that. It's assuming you've seen them, but they covered all their bases.
No, they do.
Whereas in the first one, I think, and it's been a while since I've seen the first one with Ron Perlman. Like I think it's
same.
I think it starts with World War II.
It does.
Where they find him. It's like, okay, so that's where it starts. That's the beginning. This one, it doesn't start there, but it does go back and show that entire scene again.
No, it does.
So that's his entire origin again.
Mm-hmm.
And even for like all the characters that are there, there's sometimes, and I forget if all these characters were referenced in the other movies, but it gives all of their origins as well.
Yeah.
So you get all the complete origins of these characters from this movie. Thus, it can be a total reboot or a first introduction to the series.
Like how by the time you got to like Batman Forever, like it's still showing like a flashback of a little like that, and this is I'll start out saying some nice things about this movie because it is a movie that a lot of people are kind of ragging on right now.
Right.
Critics and even some people that I've seen over on Twitter. I'll start out by saying some nice things about this movie. One, the casting is really good in this film.
David Harbour, everyone ever thought, why not Ron Perlman? He's great. He's still alive.
So is David Harbour.
David Harbour was good too. I really liked him in it.
David Harbour was very good casting. He really fit this character very well. There's other casting in this that's done well too. Mila Jovovich is kind of lame as the character sort of is in the movie a little bit. Like I liked her casting.
I think it's just because I like her.
I do
that's
too.
The thing is that she has a great career.
Yeah.
And doing action, she's really good. Mm-hmm. But this is just a lame character. It's a lame villain.
Yeah.
Who other than like her, how horrible she's gonna be.
I was having fun with that character a few times because it was Mila Jovovich playing her.
I guess, yeah.
So I
think
she looked the part. She played the part.
Sure,
There's
sure.
a couple scenes where it kind of let her cut loose a little bit.
Yeah.
And so her
it still is a lame character.
No, it is. Yeah,
So,
don't get me wrong, it is.
For a great actress who totally could have done some really cool things. It's just kind of a waste. You're right. There's a couple points where like she does get to do some cool, fun things, and like that scene where like she's dismembered on the couch, but like
watching television.
Right, like that was
that's
arguably all right. That's pretty cool, right? You know,
Uh-huh.
there's lots of pieces in this movie that I like, as you're saying. So continue.
It's a good choice for director. It's got a horror director behind it named Neil Marshall. Now this is a much more R-rated Hellboy movie. It has a lot of language in it. It has a lot of gore, and it's got a director like Neil Marshall behind it, who's mostly known for horror, namely The Descent, which is a fantastic horror film, one of the best ones of that decade. So having him behind this movie works in theory. It does, having him behind this film, and David Harbour as Hellboy, certainly Ian McShane, and it's cast well.
Right.
The director,
Daniel Day Kim, I think, was really good in it.
He's very good.
And
in the movie.
I don't Sasha, the girl who plays Alice, I'm unfamiliar with her, but I thought she was good too. You know.
It's a movie that you can tell has, like, okay, as much as you can like the fact that Neil Marshall is the director of this film, and it is an R-rated movie, it has a prominent horror director behind it, it's also a movie with 19 producers, which means this guy didn't direct this film.
No, he turned in a director's cut.
Yeah.
Which was by obligation of the DGA or whatever. He turns in a director's cut, and then they go, "Here's your check, get out." 19 producers, have at it. And then they just chomp, and just cut it to pieces, and then rework it. And it's something that I said, working as an editor and working on a movie, and you could just tell as you were watching it. There's all these ADR lines that are very clearly thrown in, that just smack of. Excuse me, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm one of the 15, associate producers. I haven't said anything to this point, but now I'm going to say, I think so-and-so needs to say that right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of things
Okay, so then there's an ADR line thrown in there that totally, one, sounds like an ADR line.
Yeah.
Just completely sounds out of place, sounds really rushed. And then two, just like, why, that was not a necessary thing to add.
Well, this movie is made up a lot of that was an unnecessary thing to add. But if I was noticing things like the ADR work, and also a lot of scenes where it looked like the actors weren't there at the same time with each other. A lot of weird cutaways and things like that. Even plot points. It's a movie that, as I was watching it, I go, sometimes the energy in it is fine, but it's random. The movie's really random. It is a series of things happening. It is a series of what feels like almost vignettes loosely connected. And it didn't surprise me that the writer behind it is a television writer. Because, and I don't know how much this has to do with it, but this is a movie, and I saw someone say the same thing, and I agreed when I was watching it. It felt like the kind of movie you're watching that feels like it's a season of a television show cut down to about 2 hours. Because there's a lot of important plot lines that come up that are then just gone from the movie.
Right.
It is racing to go from one thing to the other. The dialogue in the movie, as much as David Harbour is charismatic in the role and is having fun, a lot of the dialogue from everyone from him and Ian McShane to everyone else is very, 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 very exposition heavy.
Yes.
And that's it, really. It's a movie made of a lot of exposition dialogue that isn't really connecting to a lot of scenes. Big things will get brought up and then are just dropped repeatedly over and over and over again in the film.
And it feels like a lot of that to me comes down to when you're sitting in a room, in a screening room, and you've got your editor and your people there, and you've got your 19 producers sitting there, and somebody goes, "Stop, hey, I don't understand why this is the case." It's like, oh, well, that's just a reference to a 15th century witch. Why is that? I don't know. It's not important. The overall... No, I think that needs to be explained. Okay, fine. Throw an ADR for somebody saying this.
Yeah.
And what it ends up being is that they're spending so much time on the tiny minutia of what's happening right there and then that the overall movie suffers.
Yeah, because you have Thomas Hayden Church who shows up in this
Right.
movie for 30 seconds.
He shows up in the post-credit scenes. Did you see that?
Oh, no, I missed that. We wanted to go to the bar.
Sure, yeah. No, there's a little post-credit scene.
Okay.
With him that, and again, like...
As a Nazi hunter.
He's a Nazi hunter, yeah. And it's... I'll tell you about it just because it's worth talking about. So, like, a little spoiler for the post-credit scene. And again, cover your ears if you don't want the spoiler of this. I'll give you the signal when we're clear. So, Ian McShane dies in it.
Yeah.
And so the post-credit scene is Hellboy leaning up against his grave drinking. Mm-hmm. And then Thomas Hayden Church, as the Nazi hunter, appears and shows up to him. And he freaks out and he goes total fanboy. Hellboy goes fanboy. He's like, I know you hear this all the time, but, like, you're totally awesome and I love you. And can I see? And he's got this little, like, branding claw. He says, can I see the claw? And he goes, oh, that's so awesome. And he just walks off and says, hey, you got to get back into the fight.
Yeah.
And, like, he goes through something because clearly he's a ghost. And Hellboy goes, whoa, okay, so that happened.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to see Thomas Hayden Church. It was just a completely throwaway thing.
Yeah.
But, like, so much of this movie has those little moments where it's like, okay, that might have been a fun little throwaway thing, but getting there was really hard.
Because the movie feels like it doesn't have a lot of heart to it. And then when it does, try to have
you're clear now.
this kind of dramatic moment between Hellboy and his dad, Ian McShane. It's while there's a weird effect where Ian McShane's head looks like it's on an old rotting sperm's body. Like it's odd. It takes you out of the movie and like some of the dramatic parts that are in it. But it's a movie that, this movie is. It is R-rated, and it is very, very gory, and there is a lot of language, but it's that kind of R rating that feels like baby's first R rating.
Well, and on that, like, with the gore, okay?
Yeah.
It was played for laughs, but never funny.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like when the very first shot is a crow pulling an eyeball out of a corpse.
Yeah.
And it makes a boop sound when it comes out, like a really loud boop sound. It's like, okay, that was supposed to be funny?
Well,
right.
because
it does other things with that too, like when random innocent people get pulled up and literally ripped in half by monsters. It's like, okay, was that supposed to be funny? Because it doesn't look as terrifying as it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, oh, that's just some random dude being literally ripped apart by demons.
The gore feels like it's not really serving anything other than the fact that they really like the fact that they have an R rating.
I guess.
So they're playing.
Honestly, fine. Over the top.
Sure.
It was over the top, and I felt it was unnecessary.
No, I agree.
But again, Hellboy, he's a demon. Gore, monsters, great. A lot of the stuff they did, I felt it was too much. Too much.
I agree because there wasn't. It's that kind of R rating you get where they are mainly focused on the fact that they have an R rating.
Sure.
It looks like
they were owning the R rating.
There's directors that it play with that fun gore level better than a movie like this does. If you want to talk about, which I think this movie is trying to go for more of a vibe like an older gorier Sam Raimi movie or an older gorier Peter Jackson movie. But when it's happening in this movie, it's random. It feels like it's there just because they're focusing mainly on they can get away with this and less how it's going to fit into everything else. It's the same with the language in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's the same with the language in the movie where, it's like baby's first R-rated movie where it's like you've just discovered the F word, so you're just kind of randomly putting it in there wherever. And of course it's always fun to see Ian McShane curse. It is. And the gore effects in the movie, they're well done. They certainly aren't kind of imaginative. It just feels like it's there cause.
It's like, see, we're going to do this because we can do it.
Uh-huh.
And like it's not really serving the story in certain places. It doesn't feel like it's serving the story, or it's excessive to the point of just not even like you're desensitized to it. So it's not like, oh, gross. It's more just like, okay.
It made me wish this was a much better written movie. Yeah. Like if it actually had a heart to it and some kind of flow and the movie, it's one of those movies that it's upsetting because it's like you want it to be good because it's like, look, you got this R rating for this movie. You have a Neil Marshall behind it. You have David Harbour who's doing a very good job. Yeah. There are lines in the movie that did get like a belly laugh out of me. Like it was half and half. Mm-hmm. Sometimes David Harbour would throw out a line, or Ian McShane, and yeah, I would kind of laugh a little bit. Like, half the time I kind of would. The other half felt like something out of, like, CSI Miami, where, like, you expected the Who stinger to come in.
Sunglasses with a...
There'd be, like, a weird pun in the movie. The one about the head later on towards the end of the movie. I wish I could remember exactly what that was. But
he's got a head.
Yeah.
It says, lady, you should stop while you're head.
That's what it was.
Like,
I was trying to remember the pun. It was a head pun, and I was like, "What was that again?" I was like, "Oh." I had to try explain that to Laura later. Laura saw the movie with me. She fell asleep towards the end of the film. She
Well, that's honestly a good point. I kind of felt during the climax of the movie, kind of bored.
Right? Yeah, because I wasn't invested in the story.
No,
I wasn't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even like what was at risk? Like, the risk of him, if he grabs the sword, he becomes the bringer of the apocalypse. It's like, well, we know he grabs the sword.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else for him to do. Forget the trailers, forget the fact that we've seen him in the advertisements with the sword. Mm-hmm. It's like there's nothing else for him to do.
Yeah. He's
gonna grab the sword, but he's also not gonna actually usher in the apocalypse. Like there was no risk.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like there was any real risk for him as the character for him to do that. So I knew it was predictable. It was gonna go where I thought it was gonna go, and it just kind of fell flat. I mean, with the visual effects, with him doing well, and
here's what this movie felt like to me when I got like a half hour or 40 minutes into the movie. It felt like you were watching, like, imagine watching Last Crusade, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Imagine watching that, and it's paced like this. Like, the first scene is like the boat chase in Venice, and then the second scene is he meets with Donovan, and then the third scene is the River Phoenix flashback, and then the fourth scene is Donovan betrays him, only in this movie he's wearing a deer head. Like that, it's random, right? That sounds random, because it is.
Well, and like that whole storyline was kind of weird in that, like, there's these English, similar to the DRP something or other, like the American division of paranormal. They're like the British version, and they call them over because there's giants attacking the countryside.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, well, we can normally take down one, but there's three, so we need help.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, we can't take on three by ourselves. We have to have Hellboy. And then they immediately betray Hellboy and try to kill him. And then they themselves get attacked by the three giants that they're not able to take on by themselves.
It was
and the giants kill them all.
Yeah, it was like...
So, what was your plan?
It was like a stupider Donovan from Last Crusade. Didn't I warn you not to trust anybody, Dr. Jones? It would be like if at the end of Last Crusade, Donovan just didn't even let Elsa give him the gauntlet. He just walked up to a random one himself and drank it and said, "This must be it. Dead." He chose stupidly.
Right, that was a stupid decision. Why would he have done that? Why did he come all this way?
But you know what the thing is like there's a lot to criticize about the movie, certainly. But this is not this movie is not going to make my 10 worst. I wasn't sitting there mad during it.
Yeah,
I wasn't. Yeah. It's not even the worst movie on this episode of this show. Like, not even in the bottom two. Right, there are 2 movies on this that are worse than this.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I felt the same way. I still like Hellboy. I like the concept of that character. And again, I remember really liking the Ron Perlman movies.
Yeah.
Because and just the concept for the comic book, the Dark Horse comic book is based on, taking a grandiose sort of thing of the demon of the apocalypse, born straight from hell.
Yeah.
But is played as a kind of a blue collar working cop sort of a character. I like that character.
Yeah.
That's a fun character to me.
That's going around kind of like a metalhead.
Yeah,
sorta,
exactly, yeah.
Like... Yeah, and David Harbour's good. Like, there are things about it that David Harbour's good. Once in a while, I got a laugh out of it.
Yeah,
like, I was wanting it to improve.
Yes,
and if they do more after this, which I don't know how well this movie's going to do.
Sure, right.
But, it's one where I'm like, okay, geez, if you just let Neil Marshall do his own thing.
Sure, right,
and you already have a good cast for this movie. It's just not very good, but it's not... I wasn't mad. I've seen worse this year.
It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, yes, you've got the grossness. Yes, you've got the gore. Yes, you've got the demons and that sort of thing. The things that were fun, like the last scene in the movie where they're going through that facility, killing all those bad guys, to like the rock music. It's like, okay, that's fun. Where was this for the rest of the movie? You know?
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Like that's sort of fun. Him kind of rock and roll killing bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. You know, it doesn't have to all be that, but like, let's have more of that than the long, never-ending expositional dialogue. With like, okay, so like, they made a really, really big point about how they're in this old World War II bunker. And the table was Churchill's table. And the only way they tell you this is through ADR.
Yeah.
You know, you see somebody else's face and you hear Ian McShane say, you know, keep your feet off of Churchill's table. Yeah. And then you see the girl do a look like this, which was clearly like one of those looks that was, you know, from another part of the movie. Mm-hmm. But they made her look. And then you hear her go, huh. And then you see a close-up shot of a plaque on the table saying, you know, property of Winston Churchill or something like that. So, like, they spent a lot of time telling us that that's Churchill's table, and then like Hellboy falls on it later, but then he doesn't go, that was Churchill's table! Yeah. You know, there's no other reference to it or something, you know? Like, they really wanted to tell you that was Churchill's table for no real payoff, you know? Because again, like if he fell through it, and the first thing Ian McShane said was, well, so much for Churchill's table. Or like if he lands on it and he doesn't break it and he goes, Churchill knew what he was talking about. You know what I mean? Like that would have been like a payoff to why they spent all that time telling us and showing us the plaque of Churchill's table.
And I had already even forgotten about that.
Right, because there was no payoff to it. There was no reason to do it other than somebody said, oh, they were in a World War II bunker. We should make that Churchill's table. Okay. Let's spend resources reshooting something and recutting this to show that it's Churchill's table, just to have Hellboy crash through it, and then they never talk about it
again. It's one of many things that is just not talked about later in the movie. Like it's a movie that it fights with its own tone a lot. Like at one point, like it's, you know, this hard R movie, and then stuff will happen in it like Mila Jovovich's like lackey being like Bebop and Rocksteady out of a Guy Ritchie movie.
Right.
Like
he was a character, you know, just because of his Cockney accent, was right out of a Guy Ritchie movie.
But but like with jokes like, again, like an R-rated Bebop and Rocksteady, right. So I'm like watching this hard R gory kids movie. Like it was odd. Like I don't know, but like it's
joke in it as well.
Yeah, it's, you know, if it's on Netflix or something and you like the other movies, sure, out of a curiosity. I mean, there's things about it that are fine. It's just not very good.
I agree. Yeah, you're right. It's not like offensively bad.
No, it's not that.
It was just like of the 3 Hellboy movies that now exist in the past 10 years, this is number 3. You know, this is the third one down the tier. I'd rather watch the Ron Perlman ones again, and then be like, and then if we're watching all 3, we'll watch this one now too.
It kind of does feel like it is paced and feels like something that's certainly like maybe a comic book movie of the late 90s, early 2000s. But I wouldn't even put, like, even if it was something that was made then, which it kind of feels like a little bit, but a mediocre one. Not even something as low as like Catwoman or something like that.
Yeah, no,
like not that low.
It was one, like, just passable. Just like, oh, okay, so that was kind of a weird fantasy kind of action movie, but like not like, oh wow, that was a. Oh, you know, I think one thing that was sort of offensive, not grandiosely offensive, not that I'm pissed off or anything, but it ends with, oh look, we found a fish tank. There's a something sapient inside there. What is that? And then you see the hand, the webbed hand. It's like, oh yeah, remember one of the only character, you know, one of your favorite characters, one of the best characters that everybody really loves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not in this movie.
I leaned over to Laura and went, "It's David Hyde Pierce."
No, it's not. It's Doug Jones, damn it.
Yeah, it's. Watch it on Netflix or something. There's worse movies that you'll see this year, but it's not very good. Yeah. Let's jump before we get into the next review. Let's go ahead and thank you so much, Lock Desad 6 for the super chat. He says, interesting format change. I'll miss the car, but I'll continue tuning in. Any chance you'll be at Wizard World Sacramento? Yeah. I'll still, like, you know, because the car is easier to coordinate with, like, Sarah and Dave. So even though this is, like, what'll be kind of the main setup for this show now. I'd still like to tinker around with a lot of things, like maybe adding in clips and some other things. I just kind of wanted to keep it sort of simple for this one right here. But I'll see about adding some other stuff to it as well. But we'll still do like maybe a one-off from the car every now and then. Especially maybe if it's like one of the Patreon requested midnight screenings. Because for them, it'd be easier to do the car episode, but for the main one, I'd more so like it to be this. As far as Wizard World Sacramento goes, I would love to continue doing Wizard Worlds. I'm talking with them right now about doing more throughout the year's tour. The batch that they signed me up for. They signed me up for a big batch of them, and the last one of those was St. Louis that we just did, but I'd like to continue and do more. So I'm kind of talking with them right now about it, but if you want to see me at Wizard World Sacramento, or they got Philadelphia coming up and Chicago as well, write to them, write to the people at Wizard World and say that you'd like to see us there and whatever like movie screenings we would be doing and things like that. If you want to see the movie screening too, or the Q&A that we did on Jesus Bro,
that's right, yeah.
Wizard World St. Louis, I posted that up a few days ago, so that cotton video was on there. Now, to get into the next movie here, she's looking at us like, really? This is what you still shot, just popping through different still shots. That's the big setup and effects work you got going on right now. I kind of like this setup here because I don't feel like I'm in danger of ripping anyone else off. Like, if there were two cameras pointed at us, it'd be like, this is a little like double toasted. Or if it was two cameras in the same shot, but with a movie theater background, it'd be like, it's kind of like Angry Joe. Anyway, so I saw this movie and you didn't.
I did not, no.
But did you see Shazam last week?
No.
Oh, well, you gotta go see both of these in a double feature. It's the two body swap movies that are out right now. Both wildly different genres, kind of. So this is, now when Laura and I reviewed Shazam, we brought up Big a lot in the movie. There were a lot of nods to the movie Big in the film. There's, even the plot itself is a little like Big, but superheroes and things like that. And with this movie is like a reverse Big setup, especially in the sense that it's called Little. Little is the movie where Regina Hall is it's sort of like Big by way of A Christmas Carol.
Sure. Okay,
it's not a Christmas movie, but you have the hard ass boss who's like mean to everyone she works with, yells at her assistant, just treats everyone like garbage. That's who Regina Hall plays in the movie, and this girl who has like a magic wand with her is just sarcastically, she's not even like a witch really or anything like that. She's just doing quarter tricks, and she just has this wand, and she's like, you're mean to me. I curse you to be little. And I sort of appreciated that in the sense, like, well, they kept it simple.
Right.
And it wasn't like, and then Regina Hall bumps her head. Like, it didn't do that. Like, it didn't do the head bumping thing. So, okay, Regina Hall wakes up, and she's now who she was when she was 13 years old. And shenanigans ensue. Right. So, all right. It's another one of these kind of movies. Now, I had a better time in the theater watching this movie than Hellboy for a couple reasons. When I saw Hellboy, there was this gross guy sitting next to me, this gross old man eating cans of tuna. It's like, dude, it's like, I know these are assigned sitting, but this is not a full theater. If you're going to be eating cans of tuna, I got here first. Sit a couple seats down.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Cans of tuna.
With a fork. Yeah. Like, just sitting there. Like, ah. It's like he was waiting for Abe Sapien to show up so he could say he was watching it in smell-o-vision. that happened. And like,
wow,
why
did we lead with that? That's amazing. That's the best part of the whole story.
I know. And that didn't happen. So that didn't happen in Little, but I also liked the audience in Little because there was one thing that the audience was reacting to a lot in Little. Now you see how that girl's hair looks right there.
Yeah.
There's a few scenes in the movie where like a waiter or somebody will randomly come up and like touch her hair. Just like a big faux pas, you know? Mm-hmm. So like the people in the audience, or when that happens, they're like, oh shit, or something like that. And I'm like they were reacting to that the most. Like, and I was sitting there thinking in my head, going like, you know what? Like, I've made a lot of faux pas in my life. I'm so glad that has never been one of them. Thank God. So there's things that the movie does fine, like, because you kind of, from the trailer alone, you kind of know what you're gonna get with a movie like this. There's parts in it that actually got quite a few laughs out of me. There's funny stuff where she has to go back to school and she has like she's flirting with the teacher who's there. Yeah. There was some funny stuff there. The little girl does a really good impression of Regina Hall. Like it totally feels like this is the same person. Her mannerisms are the same. Her delivery is the same. These two did a really good job of acting like one another, and I totally bought that this is absolutely the same person. And Regina Hall is having fun playing the evil boss. She's like one of those evil bosses that you'd see like Kevin Spacey play in a movie.
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah, just like chewing the scenery kind of evil type.
This weird evil where it's like, like honestly, I think even some of the bosses that Spacey has played would be like, you might want to tone it down a little bit, because she does things that are just petty. Like, there's a meeting, and a guy's just eating an apple. She's like, are you eating on my time? And he's like, what? I'm just having an apple. She's like, oh, give me that. She just licks it all over, hands it back, and forces him to eat it. He's like, oh no. Like, what is this? Like, she's hardly a person. Like,
right.
There's some decent, like, she has a love interest in the movie. Some of that stuff was honestly kind of sweet. As the movie was going, it felt like a more put together Tyler Perry film a little bit. The way that some of the romances were. A lot of it was like at least in its own universe. I was understanding how this leads to this and this leads to this. Like, I was getting a lot of the people's relationships in the film. But so overall, when I was watching it, I was thinking, it's got a handful of laughs in it that are pretty good. There's some things about it that don't. There's things about it that don't work in the sense. I mean, we mentioned this with Hellboy. There's a lot of things that'll happen in this movie that are like just forgotten about. Rachel Dratch shows up in the movie as a social services worker who says like, we're gonna monitor you and keep an eye on you. You got to get her in school or you're going to jail. She's never in the movie again after that. Like, it sets it up like she's going to constantly be there.
Sure, right.
She's only in it the one scene. And then the girl has to go to school. And there's, like, the scene with her and the teacher. It kind of sets it up like this teacher's going to be a big part of it. Yeah. He's really kind of only in the scene that you see in the trailer. So there's supporting parts that are set up and then are just kind of dropped and forgotten about as the movie goes on. Even other things too, like because they're both in the adult in the movie is her assistant.
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of situations where it's like, look, will you just not do this, or else you're gonna get put in a foster home and I'm gonna go to jail. So they'll be sitting in a restaurant and she'll want to be drinking a whole bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And just kind of for comedy movies' sake, where it's like, seriously, stop doing this. It's not just me who's gonna get in trouble here. Like both of us are gonna. It's gonna be our asses if both of us get, like, again, you're gonna get put in a home and I'm gonna end up going to jail. So there were things like that didn't work about the movie, and like, even when it ended, like, because all right, we know that she's gonna be an adult by the end of this. Right. It does raise questions at the end, similar, honestly, to, you could kind of ask a lot of these questions about Big as well, where suddenly there was just this missing person. So
right, the little kid's now just gone. Yeah.
yeah,
Didn't you have a child that you were with? Yeah.
yeah, and
right.
her friends that she made in school come to this big get together at the end that they're having, and Regina Hall is talking to him, but never says that, like, you know, I used to be this kid, whatever.
Right.
They just, she's like, oh no, I mean, she was my niece or daughter or something, but like, it's like, these kids are never gonna see this girl again.
Right.
Like, I mean.
So we really want to talk to her again. You know, is she okay? Oh, well, she's in Europe now.
Yeah.
No, we need to see her. Show us her.
Big.
We're calling the police.
Big, at least, you can ask that about Big as well, because suddenly there is just this man who's missing.
Sure.
But Big, at least...
A missing adult is not a thing that people would throw out as big a red flags as they would for a missing
For
child.
a missing child.
You know, I mean, yes, people are saying like a missing adult is bad, but like a missing child is just said, there's a child missing, you know.
Yeah, and Big, at least, it is kind of the gold standard of this kind of movie,
Sure,
in that
right.
serious that movie got as it went along, because he becomes an adult in this movie towards the end, where it actually gets kind of dark.
Mm-hmm.
It deals with things like him having sex. It deals with him losing his friend because he's now more so an adult than he was before. It gets very dramatic and very serious as that movie goes along. This never does that. Like, I mean, granted, it's not, you can tell even by how this movie is shot and paced that it's like, it was never this movie's goal to get that deep or that serious. And it never does. But I mean, even that just, it's like, okay, it's not a fraction of the movie Big was, but I don't think it's trying to be.
No, sure,
like,
no.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions like that you could ask about the movie, but it's because it never really strives for anything on like a big level or something like that, and it is just a standard comedy like this that happens to have a few funny parts and some good performances in it. It's not like, don't go to the theater to see this.
Sure,
like,
right.
This
the
is
cinematic experience for the laughs that you get are not worth the
and I was wondering what way it was going to go going into it, because it was advertising like from the producers of Girls Trip, which a good movie, and Night School, which wasn't. And it's like, first of all, why are you gloating about that? From the producers of Life of the Party. Like, what? So you're telling me not to see this then?
So you're telling me that's your only other credit?
Yeah, it's like, is this a threat? Like, so
I'll warn you that I produced this.
It's between those movies.
Yeah,
it's not nearly as bad as Night School. It's too long. Also, it's like an hour and 49 minutes long. And if a movie like this is this light, it doesn't need to be that long. Right. That was also a problem with Night School. It was like a 2-hour movie and didn't need to be. Yeah. Girls Trip was a little over 2 hours, but that at least had some drama in it, and it's just a better written movie than a movie like this and a movie like Night School. So it's a rental. Probably a better rental than Hellboy, maybe, but like, I don't know. Both of them are best suited watching at home.
Right.
What I would like to do here now is actually thank a lot of the people who sent us super chats on the previous ones that we didn't get to see. So special thanks to John Early, Mike Phelan, Mary Widow, Clinch Eastwood, nice, Tommy Williams, Christopher Ayers, future movie actor. Thank you very much, you guys, for sending us super chat donations and everything during the previous handful of midnight screenings that we did that we just didn't get a chance to look at because either it would scroll by too fast or it just didn't give us like the link on
right
there.
Well, it's also, we're usually doing it on a phone about this big, and it's all the way up there, so like as we're seeing them go by, it's hard to see.
Well, sometimes it will give you like a button to push on there to bring up the super chat. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Like you see how it lights up right there on our end. Like sometimes that'll happen on the end on the phone, and it'll let you push it once in a while. But well, that's it for you tonight, I think.
Yeah, that's it
Laura
for me. Just a reminder to everybody out there, if you were a supporter of ours on Indiegogo or one of our Patreons, the DVDs for Cinema Snob Punches Nazis, or if you had a higher tier and got some of our uncut DVDs, those have all shipped
Mm-hmm.
So you should start receiving those within the next week or so, depending on where you are, because we're shipping internationally for some of those as well. That DVD, The Cinema Snob Punches Nazis, is going to be available next week.
Yeah.
We're going to actually have the link go live, so that way if you haven't been part of our pre-orders, you can get your hands on that DVD, so that's coming up real soon. Otherwise, just support us on Patreon and get opportunities for some of those things and some other stuff as well. And in movie news, we might have some announcements on things in the movie probably end of next week.
For another Cinema Snob movie.
Cinema Snob movie, yeah. Possibly some artwork, possibly some other stuff as well.
Cool.
So, with possible release dates and other things maybe coming soon after that. So,
yeah.
Progress is moving on that now that I'm back, and we're kicking ass on that. So, thanks for having me tonight.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you. I'd give you a hug, but there's so much stuff right here.
Hug, crash, bang.
The microphone's in my ass again. Yeah, and follow us on Twitter as well to get announcements on all this. Follow us at the Cinema Snob. You at
Walkaway ENT.
Walkaway ENT. Remember, you could fit Walkaway Entertainment on the
I
whole
couldn't fit
handle.
the whole thing. Yeah.
So
you still have 3 more movies.
I got 3 more movies. Me and Laura have 3 more movies to talk about. We've got Missing Link and After and The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
All right, so stick around for those. All right, but I'm out, so I should go send Laura in.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Thank you very much. Now we can just sit here, just you and me. Okay, but yeah, like I said, if you want to send us any anything in terms of the super chat or anything like that, that's one thing that we'll try to do here in between the movie reviews, especially on a night like tonight where we got 5 of them. How long did we end up going for?
What time is it?
It is 1 in the morning. And we started around 7. Okay, so we went for maybe like 50 minutes, maybe.
I'm just waiting in the car.
If you just that would okay. So in the early days of this show, that would be the case where it would be different sets of us going to different movies. So whoever got out of their movie first would be in the car reviewing it, and then the rest of us or whoever would be waiting outside of it or in another car waiting for the other people to finish. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes some of us would just be waiting in the back seat.
That's what I would do in the beginning before I was doing the reviews. I would just be laying down for like, who is that?
Yeah. It'd be a me and Brian reviews. It'd be like 90 minutes long or something like that.
No, I would always go home if it was you and Brian.
The funniest, so I think it was when Sarah and Dave reviewed Rosewater, which was the one that Jon Stewart directed. This hard drama, and that was the same night that I think Jake and I were at Dumb and Dumber 2. Mm-hmm. And when we went to go see Dumb and Dumber 2, we're wearing the blue and orange tuxedos from Dumb and Dumber, and we're in the back seat of their review where they're talking about like this hard drama, and Jake and I are sitting back there dressed like that, like we're 2 Christmas ghosts waiting for them to finish so we could teach them about their past.
That's funny.
Like Dave kept cracking up because he kept seeing us in his in the rear view mirror as they're talking about that. Anyway, so all right, I talked about Little and Hellboy. I did mention that when I had to explain like the head pun at the end of Hellboy, because was it that one where you fell asleep during for like 5 minutes?
I only fell asleep for like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a hard time staying awake during that because it was a long movie and it wasn't very good. So I was kind of leaning against you, and I was like trying so hard to stay awake.
But
for 5 minutes, I did fall asleep.
That's your 5-second review. It just wasn't very good. All right, so the next one that we got.
Which one are we doing?
Boop. Hang on, I gotta do the boop. See, that's so cool. Boop.
I like that noise you did.
I was doing that the other times too. All right, Missing Link, which is the new movie from Laika. If you're not familiar with a lot of their stuff, it's like Coraline, Paranorman, the Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings. Their newest one, which speaks wildly to me because I am a big fan of Sasquatch movies. Even though when you really break it down, only about 10% of Sasquatch movies are any good, and that can basically be chalked up to Harry and the Hendersons and Legend of Boggy Creek. Which is kind of funny because I've returned to Boggy Creek in the background.
There's a lot of Sasquatch movies coming out now, or like Yeti movies.
There was Smallfoot, and then there's Abominable coming out, which Abominable looks, from the trailer, that looks like the Studio Notes version of Missing Link. And alright, so really, but even though if you're watching a Sasquatch movie, by and large, it's probably not going to be very good. There's just something about Sasquatch movies I like, because a lot of even the bad ones are like fun bad. Like, you'll have Sasquatch and then like Chris Mitchell will be driving after him in a motorcycle. Or there's The Geek, that was the Sasquatch porn that just ended, and I say ending in the loosest of terms, where Sasquatch has sex with him, the guys show up, shoo Sasquatch away, dude's like, one day I'm gonna get that filthy animal. The end. This basically means I think they ran out of film 45 minutes into this movie.
I think I saw the second Boggy Creek movie with you a little bit.
Oh, because I had to watch it on the Cinema Snob.
Yeah, but I don't think I was really paying attention. I've only seen Harry and the Hendersons, and that was a while ago.
Harry and the Hendersons is a really good movie. So is Legend of Boggy Creek is a really good movie. And so where does Missing Link lie in there? Missing Link, I will say this right now, easily of the 5 movies that we've watched on this particular episode of the show, Missing Link is the best one of the 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw all of them.
You did. You saw all 5 of the movies.
So yeah, I would say Missing Link was the most
Sasquatchy, definitely.
Yeah, the most Sasquatchy.
It was the hairiest one. It was the most claymation one.
And I live with you, so it's like.
So yeah,
it's
you're
like
kind of
biopic.
You're kind of used to Sasquatch at this point. I'm honestly a much smaller Sasquatch though.
Yeah.
I'm about 5'5". So.
But you're hairy.
Yeah, I'm son of Sasquatch. Yeah, I'm the little one that comes out at the end of Harry and the Hendersons when they're all walking back in the woods.
Yeah, this one was. Yeah, the best one out of the movies we saw. I really like the studio a lot.
Oh.
I saw Kubo and the Two Strings for the first time a few weeks back, and that was really good. It's for an older audience. It treats its audience with a lot of respect. Like, they don't just throw in like a lot of kid jokes that are just kind of like, ooh, he's farting.
All of these movies, they do have a lot of heart to them. They're very, very sweet. They come from a very genuine place. This one's absolutely no exception to that. Like, I honestly really love this movie.
Yeah.
It's a film that's about Hugh Jackman stars in this movie as like this sort of wannabe explorer who wants to get in with this explorers group. He has a partner at the beginning of it, and they're chasing down the Loch Ness Monster. And in order to get into this like kind of explorer society that he wants to get into, he has to track down Sasquatch. Meanwhile, Sasquatch reaches out to him and wants his help because he's the last one of his kind, but he knows about his snowy cousin who's the Yeti, and he wants him to help him find his way to this Yeti village. And you kind of see where the arcs are going to go in the movie, because the main character that Hugh Jackman plays starts out certainly very selfish, very he's kind of a bastard at the beginning of it. You certainly know what arcs the film is going to take as it goes along. What the movie does really well is how much it really feels like an epic.
It feels like an old Hollywood adventure movie, or like Around the World in 80 Days kind of thing.
Just gonna say, like, Around the World in 80 Days. Like, here's this movie that is this stop motion animated movie that I think uses I think I saw it maybe uses some CG stuff like in backgrounds.
I think to make it a little bit more smooth. Sometimes they use a little CGI.
Or like in backgrounds, I think maybe. But aside from from that, it blends in well, and even like the little models they have, all the sets that they have and everything like that. This movie feels so much more epic than really any live action epic that's been out in recent years.
CGI
Yeah, here's
thing.
one that has sections in it that is in like this old west setting that's like something out of Red Dead Redemption.
I know,
we
we were the only ones in the theater.
We were, sadly,
which
yeah.
is sad. Like, there's so much work that goes into these movies, and so we were able to talk a little bit during the movie. And I was like, oh yeah, and then John Marston's gonna pop up and be like, not in all my years.
That's not going to be good news for Sasquatch if John Marston shows up. This is if this is Undead Nightmares, certainly I know how this is going to end. It's going to be very, very sad.
Oh.
I need to play those levels for you sometime. But like, so yeah, it's got this really kind of gritty, dirty Western setting in some of it, where there's these bar fights happening, and then there's these grand action sequences on like these ocean liners that are hitting these tidal waves and going sideways, and there's action scenes where they're having to maneuver through these ships along their sides, like jumping over doors and people sticking their heads up out of the doors and having to jump over them and navigating these walls as the ship is going through this storm. There's big sequences in India, and that's like, you know, Temple of Doom or something like that. And then by the end, in this snowy mountain like ice paradise with the Yetis, it feels really like a really good old epic. And
even the humor, it's very like kind of sophisticated.
It's very
kind of for an older audience.
Laurel and Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't really.
Well, it's the ventriloquist dummy I have in there.
Yeah.
I think that's the no, wait, I think the snobby dummy's Howdy Doody. I do have like a Stan Laurel dummy in there somewhere. I'll play with it later on.
No. I don't like dummies.
Wake up. Well, there was one time, this is when I was living with Nick Foster, who's in some of our movies. I used to scare him with that. Like one time I just stuck it in the shower and waited to hear him scream later. And then he didn't take it out, so I went up there to use the restroom and forgot it was there. And it kind of startled me a little bit. Like, oh, what's this child doing in there? No, but anyway. Yeah, it has a very, like, when it was the opening scene with Hugh Jackman and his like sidekick at the beginning, it was like a way better version of Holmes and Watson.
Yeah.
Like one's a total dick to the other one and like doesn't appreciate the other one's value or anything. And
same with the Sasquatch, because they become kind of a duo too.
No, they do. Oh, through a majority of the movie,
yeah.
They do. And there's really good physical comedy there. Yeah. Like with the Sasquatch being very sweet and naive,
doesn't
of
know
course.
His own strength.
Yeah, so there's scenes he'll sit on something, someone will fly through the air. It doesn't overdo things like that, but when it hits and it happens, it's very funny. Like there is really sweet stuff in the film. Like these two becoming friends as it goes along. Obviously, you know, I mean, it's easy to see the arc it's going to take with the Hugh Jackman
Yeah, it's pretty
character.
predictable where it's going to go throughout the movie.
In a lot of cases it is, but then like there was some stuff that would pop up with like the Yeti Village that went in kind of a different direction than I was sort of expecting.
And then there's deaths.
Oh, okay, so I'll get to that.
Yeah, where I was not expecting like something so brutal to happen to someone.
That's one thing I appreciate about this movie too. Like the studio that made it, they're very genuine. They want to make the kind of movie that they want to make. So I appreciate the fact that in a movie like this, it's a kids movie that it will let its villains die. Like it will let death happen in them. And so there are some kind of random and a couple like bloodless, yeah, but also kind of gruesome. Like,
there's this icicle that goes through someone's head.
Yeah, like so it would let stuff like that happen in the movie, and I was appreciating that a lot. Like it's like what you'd see in like some older Disney movies even up into the 90s when dude at the end of Tarzan gets hung.
Yeah, like, my mom would not let me watch that. She was like, no.
My mom did, but I was 18 when that movie came out.
I That'd be weird.
Also, if I was 7, my mom would have let me watch that. So yeah, it was doing things like that. There's a few things about the movie that don't work necessarily. Like sometimes there's a few jokes that are like kind of repeated as it goes along, where there's a few jokes where Sasquatch will Hugh Jackman will say something and Sasquatch will be like, oh yeah, oh that's so true, oh I don't know what that means, like
taking things too literally when he's like, you have my word or something.
That was funny, like
but they'll do that kind of a lot where he takes them kind of literally and he's like, oh I see what you're doing, oh okay.
So yeah, sometimes he's very good at talking and then sometimes he doesn't know what certain things mean, and like so there was a little of that, but that's fine. Like, more often than not, the laughs were really landing for me.
Well, I really like Susan. He was just so sweet.
Susan the Sasquatch?
I just wanted to give him a big hug. And
yeah, that's the kind of movie it is. It is kind of a big hug of a movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's one thing that didn't work for me, and the ending of the movie is good. Like, the directions that it goes in the end is fun. Where the story takes it is good. I like where the movie ends up. I like the ending of the movie. I like what happens with the Yeti village. I like the sweet moments with him, with Sasquatch trying to like kind of figure out his place in the world because he's the only one of his kind left, and Hugh Jackman having to realize what Susan the Sasquatch is going through. All of that I like. There's an action scene at the end that for the most part works because it's a sequence where there is a lot of deaths happening, but there was one part where I was like,
we said this at the same. Well, I said this to you.
I was thinking it. I was thinking it too. Like I think I said to you, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. There's an action scene at the end. I'm buying everything in this movie. I'm going along with everything. I'm going along with, all right, Sasquatch is here. You put a human costume on him, fine. People just think he's a big hairy guy. Like, okay, I'm going along with that. I'm going along with everything, like the slapstick comedy with the safe getting shot out the window. Like, I'm buying this. Like, I feel like this could happen in this world that's happening. There is a part at the end where there's these few characters hanging off this ice ledge where you have just a human. They're all 3 tied together. You have this human hanging onto these blocks of ice.
Like this little ledge with his fingertips.
On block of ice, and falls down another person tied to them, and this 600-pound Sasquatch creature, which we've already established is heavy in this film. Like, that was the part where I was like, you've lost me at this one.
Well, I was saying that because, again, we were the only ones in the theater. I was like, I feel like you would fall from this because isn't he kind of heavy? And
it was a sequence that felt like it was going against its own rules, or everything else I was going along with. That was the one where I was like, you could have easily just reversed this to where it's Sasquatch who's the one hanging off of the ledge. And I know this is minor. This does not factor into what my final thoughts about this movie is, but that is kind of the one part in the movie where I was sitting there going, you've had me about everything else. This one, I'm really not along with you on this particular part of it. But you are still rooting for these characters in this film, and where it ends up is good. Even the little things that came before then this was just kind of a minor misstep and everything else, and it is super minor because this is totally, so far, it is probably the better kids movie I've seen this year. It's definitely, of the movies we've seen this weekend, easily it's the best. When the movie ended, I sat there going like, that was great. That was a really sweet movie. I really, really dug the hell out of that movie. Probably liked it better than Kubo and the Two Strings, which is a movie I also liked a lot. I don't know if I liked it as much. No, Paranorman, I would say, is still my favorite of the movies. Between this and the Box Trolls, I did like the Box Trolls a lot. It's been a while since I've seen it. I'd probably have to see that movie again. But this one, I just love Sasquatch movies, man.
Yeah, I think Coraline is still my favorite of the movies that they've made. Coraline I loved, and I loved the book, so I just liked it. And
right.
More Kubo, it's just different. It's a little more of a heavier movie. This movie's pretty light. It's like it's kind of for little kids, but it's also not. Like there are a lot of adult jokes.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the jokes are a little more sophisticated and stuff. And obviously, I prefer that.
Yeah.
Over
over Dumbo?
Something like this that's ambitious. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes. Like, I'm like, Disney, you gotta step up a little bit. You guys are just remaking the same thing with CGI. Like, all the past Disney movies I've seen, I've really not liked.
Moana I did.
No, Moana's fine. I meant, like, Dumbo and, like,
Pete's Dragon I did.
I'm not, like, wowed as much. Like, with this, I'm more wowed by.
Yeah, totally. And Dumbo's a movie to where, like, I thought it sucked when I saw it. It's a movie that the more and more...
I think about it, I get even more upset.
It just makes me more mad the more I think about it.
Well, then, and then there's Beauty and the Beast. Go on. And then there was...
Pete's Dragon I liked a lot.
But then there's going to be Aladdin, and then they're just going to keep going, and just because they're safe blockbuster movies.
And then you have a movie like this
that no one was in the theater for. Yeah, that's what makes me mad.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's frustrating.
Not that CGI is easy to do. I've never tried it. I'm sure it's hard.
But
there's like this pretty. I mean, this movie's not too original. Like it's.
But I've
seen it before, but. There's a lot of work behind it. There's heart. There's obviously a lot of passion behind it. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of interference with it. Because you said the guy is like a billionaire or something that owns this production company, right?
Oh, yeah, so something like that.
Something like that. So, there's not a lot of studio interference.
There's something like that a lot. Because I think Annapurna, however you pronounce that production company, also had a hand in releasing this. And I want to say that's also a company that's run by someone who is more so wanting to put out projects that they're passionate about versus just remaking their old shit. Like, so I highly encourage going to see this movie. Totally. It didn't disappoint me at all. Like, I look forward to all the movies from the studio that comes out, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. So I'm gonna look back here at maybe some super chats that I've missed. So then we'll get on to the next movie. Okay. I knew there was one that I want to get to. AWEL Crew is asked in one of the older ones that unfortunately we just didn't see this question. Asked if there would be a best cinema snob moments of 2018 video, and also says greetings from Newfoundland. Thank you. I don't know what time it is right now over there. So I used to do these things at the end of every year that was called the best cinema snob moments of, whatever year it was. And it was usually just kind of a collection of like cameos or sketches or maybe some cutaways that I liked from snob videos. It got to a point where it was just kind of an obligation like video that I would do, because I did a lot in the early days, because a lot of us who do this similar kind of video did videos like that. At a point it was just like, it was sort of like a clip show mindset where it was like, well, all right, it's the end of the year, I'm giving myself a break, here's this kind of clip show. I've wanted to not do it for a long time, and I didn't want to do it last year. Originally, I wasn't going to do it last year, but that was when I got really sick after New Orleans and missed doing a snob episode that week, so I had to do something. So last year I put up best snob moments of 2017, and I was like kind of sick in that video, even doing that. This year, I didn't get sick or anything, so I'm like, I'll just have like a playlist of my 10 favorite episodes of the year. And I did that last year too, and I did it this year. So if you want to see something close to that, look at the playlist that says 10 best snob episodes or 10 favorite snob episodes of 2018 because I don't really like it. Plus, not that many people watch it anyway. So I'm like, I don't want to do another video like that again. Unless I get sick or something. So all right, we'll go. Anyway, I recommend seeing this movie in theaters. Missing Link. Now, to get to the one that we actually saw this afternoon.
Oh, so we're doing that one next.
Oh yeah, this movie right here. Now I mentioned in. Oh, hang on, I gotta do my thing, so I can do my bloop sound effect. Let me get it up over here. Hang on, so close. Yeah. Ooh,
steamy.
Every one of these sort of turns into porn. Can you actually give me like 10 seconds so I can run out and grab a cough drop?
Oh God, no! I'm a terrible host.
Just rap with the people a little bit, sweetie.
I don't even see the live chat though.
You can scroll up on there.
Oh no, God! Sorry, guys. I don't know what you're talking about with the live chat.
Would you be mad if I just stayed out there for like 20 minutes?
Why would I stay in here then?
Honey, dead air! Dead air!
It's your show.
I would not have done that back when I was a DJ. If I just left if I just left the air, they were like, dead air. And I'd be like, you're the station owner. And then I would just curse on the air. Nah, well, maybe that was my radio day, so I was a little drunk back then. Can you give me like 2 minutes? I'm kidding.
You're kidding.
Damn it, I can't ever get you anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't even take notes for this one.
Well, we just saw it this afternoon.
This is the YA movie that's out, in which there is a young virginal girl who goes to college, and she has, like, her straight-laced boyfriend. Her mom's very protective of her, but then she goes to college and has like a bad influence roommate, which then leads to her falling in love with the bad boy at school. Now, what you really need to know about this movie before going into it, a couple of things. One, Missing Link is the best genuine comedy that you'll see in theaters this weekend. This is the funniest unintentional comedy that you'll see in theaters this weekend. So, now how 50 Shades of Grey is a lot of you might know this about 50 Shades of Grey, where it is it started out as Twilight fan fiction. This movie's a little like that, in that it's not Twilight fan fiction, that this book series, because I think it's a trilogy, this book series started out as One Direction fan fiction. That is this movie that you're seeing. This movie that is this love triangle setup that's kind of like, Twilight without the supernatural element to it. But only if it's written by someone who's envisioning members of One Direction in all the parts. And One Direction is not in this movie, mind you. But apparently that is how this book was originally written or conceived or something like that. This movie is ridiculous.
It looked like when we were going to see it, there was only one other person in the theater, and she was like maybe in her 40s.
Just in the theater back by herself back there.
But it looked like maybe I made you go see this with me.
'Cause I'm dressed like this in my green jacket. You're dressed like the target demographic for this film. Like, I look like I'm just some curmudgeon that you drive you to this movie, and I'm stuck here and have to see it.
Yeah, I don't think I saw a trailer for this.
Oh, I did.
You showed me, like, the poster and told me a little bit about it.
I
was like, okay.
I got a few trailers for this movie. Now, I wish I forgot to take notes on this damn thing. I kind of wish that I did. Now it's starting to feel like a regular Midnight Screenings episode. So, okay. Now, when I say that this character in the movie, whose name is the bad boy?
Hardin.
Hardin. Yeah, Hardin Scott is his name. Who's he's the bad boy in the sense that he dresses in a lot of black and
He
has
wears a
his
Ramones
sleeves
shirt.
he's wearing a Ramones shirt. He never really does anything like illegal, or he just is really moody and he's very pretentious. He has like art books he draws in. He probably has some very deep poetry.
Okay.
And he's the kind of bad boy where he'll be sitting in class and they'll be talking about Pride and Prejudice and he'll be like, well, frankly, I think Emily was a bit of a prude. Like, you know, and
So, what's that?
I don't know. I can't do a perfect accent of this guy. But then, like, okay, they'll be sitting having dinner together, and she'll say to him like, "So tell me about your past," and he'll say some pretentious shit like,
Oh, he'll be like, I don't think we should talk about these mundane things, or
"I don't want to talk about these mundane things."
it's like, I don't think that really reveals a lot about a person. It's like, yeah, it kind of does. Like, this guy. One of the issues I had with one of the biggest issue I had with this movie was that, like, he's really not that much of a bad boy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were kind of.
But he's really moody, though.
No, he's very pretentious, and he can be pretty manipulative and stuff, but he's not like 50 Shades of Grey, or even like Twilight, where it's like this, like where Edward could kill her if he wanted to, and where Christian Grey is also very intimidating and very manipulative. This guy's just very moody and pretentious.
He's that kind of rebel that you would see who would say things like, "I play by no one else's rules, not even my own."
Yeah, it's not like he breaks the law or anything. Like, you were comparing it earlier to...
I'll get to that in a second. Because there is a few easy ways to, like, kind of sum this movie up, because it is kind of this love triangle, or actually a love square film, because there's the bad boy who is like, you know, bad boy in the way that like someone on 90210 would be. There's the bad boy who she has the hots for. Then there's the, you know, milquetoast guy who's her actual boyfriend. Meanwhile, there's also like the best friend at the college. Yeah, there's Johnny McFriendzone, who she's also like friends with there. So there's that going on. There's a few ways that you could kind of describe this. Now, yeah, it's easy to bring up Twilight, certainly, because it's in that genre a little, just without the supernatural element. But if you really, really want to break this movie down, here's what it is. It's like if you were watching a really crappily written YA cynical, shallow version of the Rory Dean Jess love triangle from Gilmore Girls. That's what it is. It's like she has the hots for like the rebel Jess guy, only in that case he was usually doing some illegal shit.
Yeah, like he was actually doing illegal stuff and was kind of someone I wouldn't want my daughter to really spend that much time with.
But
same with Dean. I wouldn't want anyone my daughter to be spending time with Dean either.
In that, it made, because Milo Ventimiglia is really charismatic, so, and throughout that series, that character also does have an arc, and so I get the attraction there on that show. They made it make sense. And then you have like the milquetoast boyfriend who she's with, who's like the Dean
very
equivalent. Very
possessive.
And much like Dean on that, he's the boyfriend, Noah is the guy's name in this movie, is honestly way more creepier than the rebel guy in the movie.
I wouldn't, like, Selma Blair plays the mom, and they kind of establish the fact that they're very close, and she kind of has this, she wants her daughter to succeed. It is kind of a little bit like Rory and Lorelai, where it's like they only have each other, and she wants her to succeed academically and all that. So, I mean, they do have only each other and stuff, so she wants the best for her. But Selma Blair gets, like, really mad.
She comes in, she walks in on, what's the guy's name again?
Harden. Remember, he's hardcore, so Harden.
God, even his name. He has a punchable name. So Harden, and her are making out in the loft when the bisexual roommate isn't in there.
Is she bi? I thought she was, like, gay.
Oh, was she? I don't know, like every time she kept doing stuff in the movie, she kept like practically looking at the camera, just going, "I'm experimenting." Like,
it's just a phase.
I know, right? Like, so she kind of drops out of this movie after a while too.
Yeah.
So yeah, she wasn't in there, and like she's making out with Hardin. The main girl, Tress or whatever her name is making out with the boy, and then Tessa, thank you. And then, yeah, Selma Blair walks in and instantly just has this conniption fit about it.
Flips out and like,
he's
gonna hurt you. And I'm like, you don't know this guy. Yeah, like, honestly, I'd be like, you go, girl. Like, he's kind of cute. Like, whatever.
Yeah. Sure. And when you say that now that you know who he's related to.
No. That's not true.
He's like Ralph Fiennes' nephew or something. He was younger Ralph Fiennes in one of the Harry Potter movies.
Tom Riddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no, that's not true. I'm not like, ooh. Now that I know.
No, that was the lady sitting in the back of the theater. Nah, so but the Noah, the boyfriend in it, is one of these characters in the movie who will keep showing up randomly, and he'll be texting her things like
20 missed calls and
20 missed calls, and like he'll be texting her things like
I'm very disappointed in you. You're at a party and stuff.
Your mom said this would happen. Your mom said this would happen with that roommate. Goes,
okay, Dad.
I only want what's best for you and things like that. I'm like, this guy is creeping me out way more than the other guy. The other guy, the Hardin, the rebel guy, the loosest of sentence, like he dresses in black and sits on roofs a lot. So
just pondering and
he ponders about a lot of things in his writing, inner poetry in his head. So, but at least he's like up front to an extent about.
Yeah, there's this part where they're just kind of swimming in this lake, and then she's like, "Answer me this, like, who do you love the most in the world?" He's like, I love myself, I guess. It's like, okay.
It's like, he is kind of up front about being a dick, sort of like it throws in this. I don't know if I'd call it a twist, but it throws in this explanation for why certain things happen in the movie. I was honestly hoping it'd get like really dark and like a In the Company of Men type sense. Like if we go into like Neil LaBute is exactly who should be making a movie like this, or Bret Easton Ellis. So, but no, it really doesn't. It throws in this thing at the end that's whatever.
Yeah, like this like huge climax kind of thrown in there, and then it's kind of resolved in like 15 minutes, and then it's over.
You were leaning into me during this, saying like different like cliche lines throughout this. So like she meets him. She comes out when she meets him for the first time. He's in the dorm room. She comes out in a towel because he's in the shower, and he's like, "No,
don't flatter yourself." Like
I wasn't looking at you. Don't flatter yourself. And you lean over to me and go, and you were like, "Ooh, he's rude to me. That means he likes me."
Yeah, because at a young age, a lot of women are taught, if he's really rude to you, that means he likes you.
And he was with somebody else at a party. You leaned into me like, "Ooh, he's unattainable." And then he's like drinking scotch at one point and talking about his past.
I can fix him.
Yeah, you're like, she can fix him. Trust me. And
then there's this girl in the movie that hates her for no reason.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, we all hate each other.
Like, he
you
will
got
be
that
mine.
Right.
Like, we must hate each other now. He will be mine someday. Like, so yeah, there's like a villainous mean girl in this film. And there's... I didn't really feel sorry for anyone in this film, because even when you find out about his past, it's like, he's at a party for his dad being engaged to another woman. They all come from wealth. They're rich like in this. His dad is the chancellor at the school, and he's like not over the fact his dad used to be a drunk, and like something happened with his mom that had to do with his dad being a drunk and having a big debt. And when I watch that, I go like, all right, this is more so reading to me like, yeah, you need to get over this, man.
Well, it's like the dad's sober now. He's trying to do better now. And then he'd be like, I just miss my old dad. I was like, you miss the drunk dad?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, dude, your dad's like the chancellor of this school now. He obviously has been spending years trying to make things up to you. Like, you're sitting there in this $1,000 suit drinking scotch. Like, buck up, man. Like,
well, I guess, like, with the whole thing with his mom, like, she lives in a dump, I guess, in England, and
yeah.
so I get that might kind of suck. Like, you feel like he kind of forgot about his mom and stuff. That might suck. But, yeah, like, it's just things that, like, this kid is just really feels bad for himself, and it's just kind of annoying sometimes. And
it was like, so much of it felt like you're sitting there watching like a YA Riverdale version of Grease, where it was like there's scenes in this movie that are all kind of lifted from Grease, like when they're sitting there in the diner having a good time talking to each other, and then his friends come in and he has to suddenly act like the bad boy again and like be standoffish, like, oh, I'm sorry, Sandy.
Stay out of Riverdale.
Yeah, like you expect him to like start when she leaves him at one point. You expect him to start singing "Stranded at the Drive-In," like, and then the mean girl trying to make them jealous. It's like you expect him to start just doing the hand jive and winning the dance competition right afterwards.
One thing this movie could have done, like, it is a YA movie, so I'm not gonna expect much out of this. But
sure.
One thing they could have done that would have made this movie kind of good was this young woman exploring her sexuality for the first time, and then making it kind of darker. Maybe not darker, but like, maybe making it an R could have been beneficial. I know it's a YA movie, but that would have been kind of interesting, just like kind of a study on like a young woman discovering herself sexually and stuff, and because that is a big moment in a young woman's life. Which, by the way, her first time in this
is amazing.
I wish I was like, that would have been nice for me. But this nice romantic thing, and it's like, it's like, nope. Just like 2 thrusts and that's it.
Oh yeah, no. In this, it's like totally fine. Like, oh yeah, they'd had the time of their lives in this movie. Yeah, I mean, there's granted, this isn't really from a woman's point of view at all, but like, if you want to see, like if you want to see something like that, I keep telling you need to see Last American Virgin.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like that is one that like. You spend the first half of that, but if you guys haven't seen this movie, though, people who are my age and older, you just have to say that title, and you are suddenly brought back to where that movie goes and how much it screwed with you the first time you saw it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That would have been kind of interesting to see.
If they went that route with it?
Yeah, like something where it's a realistic, like a lot of the times, your first time, I mean, I don't speak for everyone, but... It's not going to be great. Most of the time, he's going to be a dick. But, it's realistic.
Yeah.
So, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, that's what a movie like Last American Virgin did well. And that was one thing. Yeah, I was kind of hoping it would maybe get that dark at the end, because it kind of starts pulling some, like, In the Company of Men type thing at the end. But not really.
Well, there are some realistic parts where, like... There's a reason why there's that stereotype that, like, some girls like the bad boy.
Well, sure.
Like, it's obviously not great for you, but... Like, I totally was with someone before that reminded me of this guy. He wasn't good for me, but, obviously I ended up with someone better. Because I learned from that experience. So it would have been kind of cool to see something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any Ramones shirts. I got a Bee Gees shirt. You dumped punk and went with disco. Literally, we did a movie called Disco.
I just think it would have been kind of cool to see, like...
No, yeah, but
something like this, realistic, like this...
I knew this movie was never going to go.
No, I know that I was expecting way too much from this movie, but I would like to see I'm sure there is a movie like that.
Yeah,
but
certainly.
From a woman's point of view, but...
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah.
Last American Virgin, but from a woman's point of view.
Totally.
The guy in this really did kind of suck. Like, it was like, man, get over yourself. You're not that deep or special.
I mean, Last American Virgin does, even though the main character in it is Gary, is Lawrence Monason, it does still touch on this guy that the love interest ends up with in the movie, who's a pretty bad dude. Like, and it even though the main character is the Gary character, you do see kind of a little of what you're talking about right now in that movie. You'll have to see the film, but like, it's one that like, it starts out like Porky's and then just pulls the rug under you, and it's like, oh.
That'd be cool if they did that. Like, if this was started out as a YA movie and then it pulled the rug right out from under you, because it kind of does that. Like,
I wouldn't say it this movie.
No. During the twist, like when that, like, and then it just ended there.
Oh, if
that's
it just,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, granted, if that had happened in this movie and it ended where the twist happens in the film, it wouldn't have changed. It just while the song
that's what I'm
is playing.
saying. Like, that would have been interesting.
But it wouldn't. Yeah, it would have. But it wouldn't have.
Made it been different.
It wouldn't have really changed the tone. Like, it would have been something darker that happened, but it still would have.
Darker, but I'd be impressed if they did that.
I would have
not kind of. That's why I like 50 Shades of Grey sometimes at the end.
Oh, because she leaves at the end?
Yeah. I don't like that movie. I shouldn't have started the sentence like that.
That's why I love 50 Shades of Grey.
No, I like the ending
shit
of
did
that.
it right.
That's how you... No, that's not what I meant. I meant the ending.
But, I mean, yeah, like, it would have ended...
kind of interesting.
Sure. But, it still would have felt like it was part of the same movie. Like, whereas, Last American Virgin is like a completely different movie happens. Like, it's not like, if that were to happen at the end of this, it would have always have been a melodrama from beginning to end. Whereas in the other movie's case, it starts out like a screwball comedy and then becomes a hard drama. Yeah. This would have, like, if it ended like that, it would have been darker, but the whole thing still would have been a drama, like a teen drama. No, I agree. It would have been fun if it just ended in, like, total just destruction at the end of the film.
Because that shit happens, man.
No, it does, yeah. That's why Last American Virgin's a great movie. There's people who probably think we're talking about 40-Year-Old Virgin. I don't remember it ending that dark. Don't you remember when it ended with Steve Carell just crying and credits were playing over him?
Anyways, what would you say? Like, would you recommend this or?
Hell yes. Like, if you, to like, for this movie, you put this movie on and you and your friends have some drinks and you smoke a little something. This movie's hilarious. So yeah, as like a bad movie party kind of movie, totally I recommend this film. Yeah. Like, to see in theaters, no, because there'll probably be someone else there and you can't talk during it. But this movie was unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah, I would watch it at home.
Some of it, I will say, on a positive note about it, there was some acting that was fine. I honestly thought the girl was fine.
Yeah, the girl was fine.
The dude is just playing like this two-dimensional bad boy, like
Harry Styles.
I think he was like supposed to be modeled after Harry Styles or something, or that's who the author pictured for the movie. It's like it's like this like awful YA version of like when you read that at one point the Rolling Stones were going to be in Clockwork Orange. Oh, yeah. This is like the crappy YA version of that idea. No, it's bad. Like, it's really bad, but I was enjoying how bad it was being. It was a delightfully bad movie.
Yeah, it was fun to sit there and watch that with you, because it was just fun to kind of make fun of.
Yeah, it was fun to make some like kind of snarky comments during or things like that. It's serviceable for it's totally serviceable for that aspect. Now we get into okay, I can't wait to talk about this. Let me find it here real quick. So we had this other movie that we saw. We saw it in like the middle of last week. I don't know if this movie is playing in a theater near you, but I'm going to start out by saying, oops. Okay, let me get it. As you can see, that's what it is. There we go. There we are. All right. So this is the Hilary Duff movie, The Haunting of Sharon Tate, in which Hilary Duff as you can see, plays Sharon Tate. I don't know if this is playing anywhere around you or if you've really even heard of this movie. But before I get into whether this movie is any good or not, I'll say that it's not that conceptually, it's not that I'm going after a movie like this just based on necessarily concept alone. Now, what you need to know about this movie before going into it, or before we even talk about it, is Hilary Duff plays Sharon Tate, who was murdered by the Manson family. The movie takes place a few days leading up to that, where her and her friends are in that house where the murder scene happened. What the movie is playing off of is, supposedly in some interview, she talked about having like a premonition of her own death and her friend's death or things like that. So this movie takes that and goes on this horror movie angle with it. So she's in the house and it's like the house is haunted. Audio reels are playing on their own that's playing Charles Manson's music. She'll have visions of Charles Manson standing in the house. The Manson family will just show up outside the window, outside the doors, walking down the street, giving them dirty looks and things like that. It's set up like it's this sort of paranormal slasher movie in a way. Now, what I want to say first off is that like it's not necessarily that I'm against something like this based purely on conception, because I've seen plenty of movies before that take like a tragic event and maybe they'll run with it. I mean, later this year we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where that's based around the Manson family and is totally taking it and doing something with style and doing something, at least that's how the trailer looks, and at least like it's doing something with a voice, is saying something or doing something out of left field with it. There's been plenty of things in the past that I've liked that have done that. Pain and Gain, which takes a true crime and is a very dark comedy, but is saying things about American excess and vanity and all sorts of things that movie is saying. Even there's exploitation films in the 70s that did have to do with the Manson family. There's Snuff, there's the Helter Skelter murders. And while something like Snuff isn't a very good movie, like there are stylish things about it. There are very kind of slick sequences in that movie. Helter Skelter Murders has some cheap things about it, but has parts in it that are very moody, and they took some times with a lot of cinematography in that film. You can see plenty of my first movie, Freak Out.
Hey, yeah.
It was around a true crime, and I wanted to just kind of make this disco thriller with it. So even I'm not above doing something like that. It's not that you can't take a tragedy and do something with it, either with style or just kind of provide this voice to it. But if you are going to do that,
make it good.
You got to make sure it's good or stylish or something. Because what this movie is more so in line with is like Uli Lamel, who did the Boogeyman from the 80s, has a string of really cheap movies that will have to do with like the Zodiac Killer or the Son of Sam or things like that are just really just cheap and schlocky and of really not a lot of artistic value, really. This movie feels sort of like you gave a movie like that a little bit more money. This movie is not stylish. It is not well acted. It's not written well. It's the ideas behind it. There's a couple of ideas in it. Not really done all that well. There's nothing very ambitious about the film. So what you're sitting there watching is a very unambitious, unstylish, very pretentious,
very tasteless
movie that's like this slasher movie with Sharon Tate. And since there's nothing in it that makes that necessary, all you're sitting there watching is just kind of this tasteless movie. And it's like I said, if you're going to do something like this, you got to pray it's good. You got to try to make it good, because this is the kind of movie that's one of those hack pretentious things that you'll see where the person writing it knows that it's one of those badly written movies where a character who's like maybe based on someone in real life who has a tragic ending, so they give them lines that are nothing but things like, do you
like a lot of last words,
it's a lot of like, do you think we're in charge of our own destiny, like that kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about here. So much of the dialogue in this movie is that, like, waxing philosophic about death. And I realize it's 1969, but I don't think that I don't think I know it's like I don't think that's all they were really saying in 1969. So like, yeah, there are so many conversations in this movie where it's like they didn't talk like this. They didn't have this kind of conversation with each other, talking about like maybe we're all masters of our own death and our own destiny. Like, they didn't say that. Like, there's a part in the movie where one of the dudes is explaining backmasking to her and playing Charlie tapes and telling her about Helter Skelter. Like, it's like, okay, if you're gonna go the fiction angle, fine. Like, all right. Like, I've seen things around the Manson family that totally go the way of fiction. But, like, make it somewhat believable, or good, at least, something. Because watching this is more so like watching, like, one of those tasteless made-for-TV movies that's riding off a current tragedy. Like, in 95, when there was that made-for-TV OJ movie, which is kind of fun, because it makes me, I can't wait for this director's next movie, which is about Nicole Brown Simpson.
This movie doesn't make them feel like people. Like, it's just taking this tragedy and just doing terrible things to it.
It shows the murder a lot in this film. Because it wants to structure itself kind of like a slasher movie mixed in with a paranormal horror film. She is constantly having visions of them dying at the hands of the Manson family. So she's having dreams in which it's showing the death scenes a lot in this movie, like quite a bit. And it's all done, it's not even done stylish, like it's done with a lot of these like really bad CG blood splatters
there's like
at the
blood
camera.
Splatters,
It's really, really cheaply done like that. And it's one of those, nothing in this feels like it's actually happening then in this timeline. It feels like it is something written by someone in 2019, writing dialogue and writing plot for something that happened 50 years ago. Henceforth, like this parts you get where they're saying like fortune cookie lines to each other, and also constantly bringing up Roman Polanski.
Yeah, she'll be like, damn you, Roman.
Like,
where are you, Roman?
Like, I understand it's going to bring up Roman Polanski because it was her husband, and because he was her husband, she was pregnant with his child. So yeah, I know it's going to bring him up.
Yeah, totally.
But it's bringing him up in a very 2019 way, where whenever he gets brought up in the movie, it's always like, damn you, Roman, like, this is all your fault, damn you, like, you're such a sleaze, you're such a, what, look, I don't know what their marriage was like, but
well, it's like, I guess she wants him there, like, and all of her friends are saying, like, well, where's Roman, and where's he, and stuff, and she's like, oh, he'll be back, and she's like, he hasn't answered his phone in so long, and she'll just be sitting by herself and looking at the phone, like, damn you, Roman, why would you ever call me? It's like whenever you're out of town, I'm never like, damn you, Brad, where are you?
Yeah.
Pining.
And it's showing, like, it shows, like, footage of their actual wedding. So there's not an actor playing Polanski in it, because he's never there, like, he wasn't there when all this happened. So, but it does show their actual, like, the real Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski's wedding. And also it shows, like, real news footage of like the bodies being wheeled out and things like that.
When they show a video, it is Hilary Duff when she's doing this like interview. Which it is Hilary Duff, so it's kind of like Was it? Didn't Gotti do that too, where it would show like the real John
Yeah, it
Gotti,
did.
and it was like that kind of where it was like the real John Gotti, and then it would cut to Travolta. So it's like, oh, this is okay.
It was maybe it didn't do it as much as Gotti did, but it did a little bit of that in this movie. And when it was shown, like it started reminding me of like a 70s Bruceploitation movie, where like all these exploitation movies made after Bruce Lee's death, and like one of them was showing like footage of his actual funeral. And like, oh yeah, the 70s was a wild time for this kind of movie. But then. Okay, so if there's one thing that this movie kind of did right, which is there's a cliche in this movie that I hate, where it shows a thing at the opening that like, all right, this movie opens with the aftermath of the murder scene, and it's showing all these bodies, and I'm like, oh well, I know what this is leading to, and it cuts to black and says 3 days earlier. I'm like, of course this movie does that. I will say, though, that this is one of those, like, as bad as this movie is, this is one of the worst movies I've seen this year. As bad as this movie is, I understand why they did that, given how the movie ends.
There's a twist in this movie.
Yeah, so, like, when it got to what this movie does at the end of the movie, then I was like, as awful as this movie is, this is one of those rare cases where putting that at the beginning of the movie kind of made sense.
It's ballsy.
Because this is, now we're getting into spoilers on here.
Yeah, believe it or not, there's a twist ending to a real life tragedy.
This is an alternate history movie, which again, look, fine. I've seen movies that do that. What Tarantino does that all the time. Like, I've seen all history movies that take things, run with it, and make something cool.
Yeah, but it has to be written well, and dialogue has to be good in it, and like the acting has to be good.
Yeah, and this movie's doing none of that. So this is an alt history movie where Sharon Tate and her friends fight back at the end and kill Tex Watson and Susan Atkins, and they kill the members of the Manson family who were there, and they survive at the end of the movie. And then it's playing this pretentious dialogue where it's like, maybe there are different universes and routes we can take in our lives. Maybe we aren't in control of our own...
Yeah, if Sharon Tate, why didn't you just fight back, you 8-month pregnant woman? This is your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I guess it's trying to be deep, saying like, I guess fate isn't always set in stone.
But it's pretentious.
But it's very pretentious. Because she there's a lot of fake outs in this where she'll wake up.
Yeah.
Like, because it'll make it look like, oh, the murder's happening, but then she'll wake up and be like, oh, I just had a terrible dream. And
yeah.
And so now she knows what her future is going to be.
Yeah, it feels like it's a Sharon Tate movie that's in the Amityville universe. Like,
well, it isn't the same guy that did the Amityville horror.
No, the guy who directed this, Daniel Farrens, I think is his name. His previous movie was called the Amityville Murders. I actually heard some okay things about that. I think it's about like the DeFeo case, which was like the true crime that did happen in the house with a kid murdered his family. I've not seen it. I don't know if it's any good, but I think with that one, I actually kind of heard some alright things about it. I sort of want to see it, but I'm really looking forward to that he's doing an OJ movie after this. This was awful.
It was bad. Hilary Duff. It was so awkward to see her in this because it's just I've never seen like real interviews with Sharon Tate, so I don't know how much of a great impression she's doing of her. So I don't know, but the acting it's just the dialogue she was given also wasn't good. So
yeah,
and the guy from Mean Girls and from
the gay best friend from Christmas Kiss 2.
Yeah, he's in this.
He's No,
he wasn't gay in Christmas Kiss though.
Sure.
I know, right? Sure. Yeah. But,
you're like my aunt in the 80s who's like, George Michael's not gay.
I'm just saying, that's what he was. I'm just saying. But, yeah, he's in this, and he's one of the guys that always has, like, some thing that he'll says words of wisdom and, like...
Every character's like that in this film.
Yeah, he's one of the worst ones. to do it.
Between him and the Sharon
Hilary
Tate
Duff.
character,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, man. Like, look, this is one of those movies that, it's more. You're probably picturing a much more entertainingly bad movie in your head.
It was pretty boring. Like
It's only 90 minutes, so it's not like it's too long. Like, but
if there wasn't a twist in this, I would be like, just forget it.
Right.
But since there was a twist, it's like, whoa, this is bad shit. But we saw this like a few days ago, so that's why I'm kind of having a hard time remembering some things about it.
We have seen 4 movies since
then.
then.
So like I am having a hard time remembering a lot of things of it. But just the ending alone is something that just really stuck out because you're just like, wow.
I wasn't sitting there shocked. I was more so just like, well, this is a direction they went with it.
Yeah.
Which I figured is where once it was getting to where like they were like inflicting wounds on the Manson family, and I was like, I think they're gonna kind of go in an alt history direction with this. At first, I was like, are they just kind of prolonging like this sequence? Mm-hmm. But then it reached a point where I'm like, yeah, I think I kind of know what they're doing here. But it's one of those bad movies that, yeah, it's fun to talk about and to describe because it's ridiculous that this movie exists. Mm-hmm. But to sit down and watch it, no, like it doesn't reach that level of like funny bad, really. Like After was way funnier than this.
Yeah.
Oh, After was way more entertaining than this film.
Yeah, I guess so. They're a bit different.
They're different, but I mean, like, they're both of the 2 bad movies that we saw, like, in the past week. It's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. For as many people that are raging about Hellboy, which Hellboy wasn't very good, it's not the worst thing you could be seeing right now. No. After was way worse.
I'm always stuck seeing these bullshit, stupid, lame-ass
You saw Missing Link, though. Missing Link was really good.
Yeah, the one out of the 5 movies I've seen, Missing Link is what I got out of that.
Little wasn't terrible.
It wasn't for me. The little girl was fine. I thought she was really good.
Yeah. So...
I get one Missing Link after 4 other not really good movies.
I was talking about this movie with Scott Foy, and he said about this, he goes like, sometimes like, you know, a bad movie is just bad, and that's what this is.
Yeah.
You think like maybe it might be one of those bad movies that crosses over into that, because plot-wise it does. To describe it, it does. This is this alt history Sharon Tate movie with Hilary Duff as Sharon Tate, and it's really, really badly made, badly written, and it's super pretentious. But it really is an awful movie. When we got like halfway through, and I looked at you and said like, this is maybe the worst movie I've seen so far this year, and then I remembered that I saw Unplanned. Unplanned was worse than this. So all right. Well, any other final thoughts about this?
Nah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I honestly really enjoy doing the show like this. I do.
We won't get too cold or too hot.
Yeah, Ryan said that at the very beginning of it. Like, I can actually think about these movies for a while. We can just chill and, like, have a drink between the movies when we go see them. We can go to the more comfortable theater. We can actually, like, you know, watch the super chat and everything. Speaking of, I think I have to actually, have to refresh this. We're going to take off here, though, in a little bit. Okay.
The internet's working on that one, though, right?
Yeah, the internet's working on the other one.
Oh, okay.
So, if you guys have submitted any super chats, I'm going to see it here in a second. I have it pulled up on the other... I've got 2 laptops set up here.
Well,
so,
I'm going to go, like, catch my breath and stuff.
I guess that is one thing about doing it like this, is we get a little winded by the end. I'm a little parched, too.
Parched. Aww.
Do people not use parched
anymore? It's just such a delicate word for you to use.
What do I usually say? Like, I'm effing thirsty. Okay. All right. Now I can see the super chat, so I'm gonna get to that right now. Sorry, I was looking over and nothing was popping up, and I was like, oh wait, it's not connected. Okay,
right, well,
so you're gonna take off?
Yeah, I gotta catch my breath.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Later. I'll be in there in a few hours. All right. So
what are you doing in here?
I have to do my post-movie review masturbation.
Oh my
god. Mike Anderson says, love you guys. Just saw this in my feed, but didn't get the notification. Sorry about that. For future reference, we are gonna start like consistently doing like these at like 7 p.m. Central Time on Fridays. So we'll be back here next Friday to do a handful more. Mike Phelan says, my daughter just discovered Frozen. If I hear another Let It Go rendition, mass murder will be inevitable. Less Disney, more Aardman. Yeah, go see Missing Link, plus there's I don't remember there being any really big sing-alongs in that film. Though if you do go see After, when there is this like pivotal dramatic moment between the two characters where the girl gets mad at the dude and the dude acts like really like angry towards her and storms out like, oh, I'm moody, storms out. It does this montage where it's playing like a bummer movie trailer version of Avril Lavigne's Complicated. That was, I think, the part that got the biggest laugh out of us in the theater. Red Dead Ed says, I'm disappointed at the lack of Abe and Hellboy, but I'm still going to add this to my Hellboy collection. Cameron Burns has 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yikes. You know, I say this a lot, like, look at... the movie's not very good, but it's not going to make... Hellboy's not very good, but it's not going to make my bottom 10. It's not even in the bottom 2 worst that I saw on this episode of the show. Look at... I say this, look at, like, the average rating more so on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know what a lot of critics are saying about this movie, but, I mean, I know that it's not well reviewed. But I don't know if that 10% means that, like, it's just 90% of critics who just thought it was, like, kind of bad versus 90% of them saying it's one of the worst movies of the year. So you can kind of get a better feel of what a critic consensus is by looking at what the average rating of a movie is. And I don't know what it is on that movie. Lock to Sad 6 says it... Oh, I already read that one. I'm not answering it again. He does say, like, I'll answer this one again. Any chance he'll be at Wizard World Sacramento. If you want to see us at more Wizard Worlds, write to Wizard World and say that you'd like to see us there, because I would love to continue doing more. Let me refresh it one more time, and then we'll probably call it a night. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this. It's nice, comfortable, and cozy doing these from in here and in the house. Come see us next week around this same time. We'll have I forget what comes out next week. I forget what goes. I think at least sometime in the. At least I think one movie we're going to try to see is that there's this new Mary Magdalene movie out now where Joaquin Phoenix plays Jesus. So there's 2 R-rated religious movies out right now between Unplanned and the Mary Magdalene movie. But all right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you have a great weekend. Follow us on Twitter at The Cinema Snob. Subscribe to us at youtube.com/Stoned Gremlin Productions. If you subscribe to us and click the notification bell, you'll get alerts for when we go live and when we put up new videos. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll also get messages on there saying when we're going to go live. So, all right, there'll be a new Snob episode coming up here Monday, and until then, see you guys next week, and thanks, everyone, for watching.